I get the idea, Glory, I replied with a smile, the first little smile I'd given in hours. It's just a sign, Blackjack, P21 said quietly, as he flicked his mane, trying to shake the water out of his eyes. He still had little pieces of pony in his hair, but at least he still had his hooves in his face. Yeah, I muttered, giving the sign one last long look before continuing along the hoof path that ran above the wave-bashed marina. Just a sign. Okay, it's official. Hoovington gets 200 inches of suck my dock, I muttered as we continued north while the river curved away to the west. The buildings were changing from fancy shops to more business-like structures. Most were 5 or 6 stories, nothing compared to the towers in the core, of course, but tall compared to what we'd been seeing in the past while. We were growing slowly uphill, which, combined with all the rain pouring down on us, meant that half the time it was like we were trying to wade up a creek. The storm drains couldn't handle all the water, and so it was surging and trickling around us all over the place. It was up to my knees in the cold flow. Then the ground exploded. Of course it exploded. Everything spontaneously explodes around me. Pipes, vertibucks, mares. Hell, I made Deus explode. Twice! So, really, I should not have been as surprised as I was by the missile blast that knocked me off my hooves and sent me rolling back till I hit P21 in glory. Lacuna, who kept herself in scotch aloft, immediately raised her shield. Good thing, too, given the barrage of Gatling gun fire that sprayed against us. It followed with a blinking line of fire to a balcony. Oh. Hello, Steel Rangers. A pair of them. They were firing missiles and guns at my friend, and the filly levitated alongside her. The mare's purple shield flashed white with every impact. Lacuna focused all her strength on keeping it up, and more missiles from one of the suits of power armor streaked towards her. The shield flashed again and again as she struggled to maintain it. I'd seen Steel Ranger power armor before. Frankly, I wasn't all that impressed, mostly because I didn't have any. But having some suits fire at me now, I had to admit that I really didn't want to fight these ponies. The heavy metal screamed much more substantial than I anticipated now that it was firing at my friends. Then the shield exploded as a blast knocked both of them from the air. Scott gave a little shriek and spun as I reached out with my telekinesis to try and catch her. I barely slowed her, and I heard a crack of her landing hard. Lacuna screamed as bullets sawed through her hide while she tried to raise another lingering defense. Scotch tape wasn't moving. I chewed down on a tablet of buck and charged at the cover of the first Steel Ranger. My inventory said I picked up some flash from somewhere. Fuck it! I floated it out and ran as fast as I could, clattering my braces, allowing, and bit on the tube, letting the chem fill my lungs. Time slowed to a crawl as I closed the distance. The Steel Rangers seemed to realize that there was a threat other than my Alicorn friend. I left the flash-induced acceleration just in time to enter the slow time of Sats, and toggled 4 shots to the Ranger's skull. The first blast blackened his armor. The second shattered the glowing eyepiece. The third opened a foot-long crank in the side of his helmet. The fourth peeled away a jagged spur of metal. I saw pink skin and a terrified blue eye staring back at me as the targeting spell ran off. I pushed hard, my buck-infused body lifting and shoving. I felt like I was an orange mare pushing over a fully loaded apple cart. One brace gave beneath my barding, but still I lifted until the whole suit of armor fell over with a metallic crash. Vigilance pressed against the eye as I stared down at her. The dealer stood a short ways away. Pulled the trigger. His solemn face seemed to say, "What's one more body? You bitch and moan about the dead, so make some more. Ponies fall like rain in the hoof. Pull the trigger. Do it." I'm so sick of bodies. "She's okay, Blackjack," Glory yelled. My eye bored down into the Rangers. One more body. One more. What was one more? Be kind. Do better. Be strong. I had 1 dealer and 4 ponies all fighting with the overwhelming urge to light a bonfire. But slowly, bit by bit, I reasserted my control. I don't want to fight you, I said slowly, my voice trembling. I don't want to kill you. So stop fighting me, please. I didn't quite trust myself as I pulled the gun back. She slowly rose to her hooves. The armor gave a pink flash and repaired itself before my eye. If there had been a chance to kill her, it was gone now. Salad, you okay? Asked the second ranger as I backed off. For a moment I was certain I was finished. The other stood on a balcony above us, still raining bursts of fire down on Lacuna. Her magic arrows had gouged holes into its armor, but it still fired. Hey, knock it off, radishes! Boomed the first, the other as she froze. She had a missile launcher and the biggest machine gun thing I had ever seen. It looked like it fired grenades. The only guns I'd seen that were bigger had been Deus's cannons and gun. The other was armed with a Gatling gun and something. Was that an IF-100 miniature howitzer on her side? I'd only seen one in the Ironshod Firearms Special Edition catalog. These aren't flashers or reapers, I think. I gave a terse nod. The buck was making my heart beat so fast that it felt like I was going to crawl out of my chest. But that one's an alicorn fruit salad. Aren't we supposed to kill those on sight? Said the other as she jumped down from the balcony and landed with an easy crush. Somehow that simple, agile, and carefree act scared me even more than the guns. The howitzer flipped open as she spread her legs, bracing herself. Suddenly, that feeling of them not wanting to fight was diminishing rapidly. I bet Brown Betty can get through that shield. I rose to my hooves and shook myself hard. Think, Blackjack, what was a good excuse for my friend being different? My friend isn't one of those, monsters? I said as I pointed to Lacuna, who looked back at me in surprise. She always said she wanted to be like Princess Luna, and she came across some killing joke. I grinned, trying to will them to believe my flimsy lie, as I added lamely. We came out here to get away from those monsters. We were doomed. That is right, Lacuna said, looking down at me in some confusion. Call me Luna. The pair looked at each other, and then radishes shrugged and Brown Betty retracted and folded in. Fruit Salad still seemed to be regarding us suspiciously, though. Well, best stay away from Iron Mare. Actually, it's best if you turned around and went somewhere else. Anywhere else. This whole area's a war zone. Who are you, ponies? I'm security, and these are my friends, I said as I gestured behind me. We're actually looking for the Steel Rangers. We need to talk to somebody in charge about this war, and find some way to stop it. They looked at each other, as if trying to decide whether to believe me or not. Well, that's not me, ma'am. The pony ultimately in charge is Elder Crunchy Carrots, aboard the HMS Celestia. Or you could talk to Star Paladin Steel Rain at the front. Otherwise, you'd need to see Archivist Napalm Strike. Fruit Salad pointed to the north with a hoof. I've got to warn you, though, we're not exactly open to outsiders, so your business had better be serious. It feels like we're fighting off half the goddess-damned hoof right now. They could talk to him, Radishes said. I'm sure he'd be willing to listen. He's always willing. Him? What? Him what? Fruit Salad began, but suddenly shook her head hard. Oh no, not him. That's crazy, Radish. That guy's a nutcase. Who's a nutcase? Honestly, with my track record, I might be better off with a nutcase. And boy, that wasn't saying much, was it? Paladin Bombs, Fruit Salad muttered. Personally, I'd stay away from him. The guy is a complete freak. You just don't like him because he's a unicorn, Radishes chided. No, I don't like him because he's a nutcase who sawed off his own horn to become a paladin, Fruit Salad countered. Okay, maybe the nutcase option wasn't so good. Now that this conversation's wandering into Freakyville territory. But what are you two doing out here? P21 asked as he looked at the pair. Well, you're not Reapers, so I suppose it'd be okay to tell you. We're skirmishing, trying to keep all the gangs from organizing. We're outnumbered, but not outgunned, Fruit Salad said, and the machine gun thing let out an ominous clack as something loaded. We were playing tag with some flash fillies near their base when they hit one of us with a spark grenade. Completely fried his systems. He's probably dead. Of all the gangs, the Flashers pose the biggest threat with their shock mines. One or two of those things, and we're sitting ducks. He's a male. You know, Flashers like to play with them before finishing them off. Radishes commented. I gave an inward groan. Doesn't any pony just have normal sex in this place? Are they holed up in the Flash Industries building? Glory asked as she looked at the Rangers and to me. Yeah, that's their main base. Not a settlement, just where their leader Diamond issues orders. Anything else? Numbers? Do they keep slaves? I asked, and saw P21 wince. A few dozen or so. Flashers don't do that slavery thing. Robbery and release, mostly. Useless, unless you're a buck. Or a steel ranger. Then they'll dust you, Radishes said. Not at all like the burner boys. Those freaks are sick. They like taking families, wiring up mom and dad, and sending them out as suicide bombers. Otherwise, they'll cook the kids. You see any pony wearing red, kill 'em. Red is dead, I muttered with a small smile. I think I can remember that. Any other gangs? There's the Half-Hearts. No, they're mostly out west. Grimmest damn ponies you're ever gonna meet. And the Highlanders, but they're not as bad as the rest. You can find them off to the east. Some zebra tribals or something to the northeast. Ghouls, of course, creeping all over the place. And the damned Enclave, Radishes said, and at once Glory stepped forward. What's this about the Enclave? The Grey Pegasus asked with a worried frown. They're skulking all over the fight. Not really picking a side, we think. But there's a lot of Reapers with bright and shiny energy weapons and spark grenades, Fruit Salad said, as the Ranger looked to the north. Might be from the fillies, but they usually just don't give their toys away. If you could confirm it, I know Star Paladin Steel Rain would appreciate it. I chewed my lip and thought. I'll see what I can do, was all I could say. I'd have to get a better look at what I was dealing with before I could comment. Thanks. Gotta get Hoofington under control. Like the Star Paladin says, it's our duty to safeguard the technology of the kingdom. Can't let those Reapers control the city, Fruit Salad said, turning to Radishes. Come on, let's go play some more tag. The two disappeared into the rain. We took some cover in some ruins, mostly to get out of the rain, but again to talk. A steam trickled through the middle of the blasted shop that we were using. Not exactly a place to hole up for the night. So, is there a plan? P21 asked softly, rubbing his leg idly as he looked at me. His eyes seemed to say, more of a plan than an arch. There damn well better be. We need to get in good with the Steel Rangers, I said as I looked in the direction the two had gone. Otherwise, they're never going to listen. And hopefully, if we make them like us before telling them, they'll forgive us for starting this fight in the first place. And what if the fight doesn't stop? Glory's question was one that I didn't want to try to answer. Her eyes fixed on her hooves before she glanced at me and continued. Are we just going to walk away and let them rip each other to pieces? I sighed, rubbing my temples. I wish Rampage was here. She'd been our guide of sorts. She could tell me about the Rangers and what their goals were, give me a hint if I should go back to them or not. But she wasn't, and I had to make a choice again. I looked at Scotch, who had busted a leg from that fall. It could have been her neck. Fortunately, Lacuna was healing her snapped limb. Another injury for following me. It was scaring me to death.